Early 1960s, poolside bar at the Tropicana Hotel, Las Vegas. Glamour girls in daring high-cut suits laugh over frozen screwdrivers as a 7-Up clock strikes noon. Shoots like this sold America on year-round desert fun, making bikinis and cocktails just as iconic to Vegas as the roulette wheel. This winter road trial, circa 1909, right after Ford's Model T debuted, shows how raw motoring was. With no bodies or heaters, drivers donned shaggy sheepskin suits to brave the 20-mile-per-hour chill. Mud-splattered endurance runs like this convinced skeptics the automobile wasn't a toy, it was the future of transport. September 1944, Holland. Two badly wounded British paratroopers from Operation Market Garden steady each other's cigarette. Back then, tobacco was issued with morphine, the quick comfort for shock and pain. The day cost more Allied lives than D-Day. Yet this image whispers something else. Camaraderie hurts less than the wounds. Rome, late 1950s. Three young Italians in check, stripe, and polka dot suits pose on the wooden walkway of Ponte Sant'Angelo, Hadrian's fortress looming behind. The bikini was still borderline scandalous. Tiber beach patrols often barred it, so fashion mags shot here to flaunt Milan's newest textiles. Images like this helped steer Italy from marble modesty to full La Dolce Vita chic. Las Vegas, 1963. On the set of Viva Las Vegas, Elvis rehearses with co-star Anne Margaret, while a Mitchell camera cools in the shade. Their on-screen chemistry ran so hot, the studio trimmed scenes, fearing the king might be upstaged. Rumor says they kept dancing by the Flamingo pool between takes. This is an Italian Obice da 305/17 Modello 16 Siege howitzer, a 33-ton behemoth from World War I. The wheels are fitted with Bonagente metal shoes so that the 305mm gun could crawl through mud. Only about 30 guns were built, and several were captured by Austro-Hungarian troops near Udine in 1917. Vietnam, about 1966. UH-1. Huey skim into an LZ, while a grunt waves his rifle to guide them in. The Huey turned this into the world's first truly airmobile war. Over 1 million combat sorties, and that unmistakable wop-wop rotor beat still echoes in every vet's memory. This DIY house car from the late 1920s is an ancestor of today's RVs. Dad bolted a wooden cabin onto a Chevrolet chassis, beds, stove, the works, so he and his daughters could roam America's brand new highways. Back when motels were scarce, this was rolling luxury. Tiny pioneers like this kick-started the RV industry that now sells nearly 500,000 motorhomes each year. Meet a late 1950s sweater girl modeling the era's hottest accessory, the bullet bra. Stiff foam cups and spiral stitching shaped a rocket-like profile that matched the post-war obsession with hourglass curves. By the early 60s, softer lines would reclaim fashion, leaving these pointy cones to live on in retro posters and pop culture nostalgia. Meet the Backenbach 349 Natter, Germany's last-ditch interceptor of 1945. Built mostly of wood, it launched straight up like a rocket, fired 24 unguided missiles at bomber formations, then the pilot was meant to bail out, while the fuselage drifted down by parachute. The lone man test flight killed its pilot, so the Natter never saw combat before the war ended. Early 1930s. On a rain-slick street, a policeman sizes up a roadster that folded itself around the curb. Mechanical brakes, skinny tires, and zero seatbelts meant any puddle could spell disaster. Drivers trusted leather gloves more than the hand-cranked wipers. It would take another 3 decades before seatbelts became standard safety gear. Moscow, mid-1950s. The women's volleyball squad from MEFI, an elite nuclear engineering college, lines up for a student Spartakiad match. Soviet authorities poured resources into women's sports, seeing every medal as proof of socialist superiority. Just 2 years later, the USSR would capture the very first Women's World Volleyball Championship, quite likely with one of these future engineers on the roster. Washington, January 1921. U.S. Secretary of War Newton Baker rolls out from under the Taft Bridge in a chase-track Ford Model T, an add-on tread kit that made the humble Tin Lizzie a pocket tank. Its wooden wheels drove a flexible belt, while a full-size Mark 8 loomed behind. The Army called it interesting, then shelved the idea. Montreal, 1939. During a snowstorm, these stylish women test blizzard cones, clear plastic beak-shaped masks meant to keep faces and hair safe from icy winds. Newspapers hailed the idea, yet it fizzled. Breathing was awkward, and the laughter it sparked offered no protection at all. Hollywood, 1955. The era's most famous blonde squeezes into a hand-beaded corset, while her director and costumer study the fit. Every crystal had to sparkle on monochrome film, so the fitting room was kept at 65 degrees Fahrenheit to prevent fogging. Western Front, 1918. Troops wrestle with a Quad observation balloon, nicknamed the Sausage. An artillery spotter in the basket phoned targets to the guns and carried one of the war's first parachutes in case German fighters swooped in. By armistice, the Allies had launched more than 2,000 of these gas-filled giants. Hollywood, late 1950s. A rising starlet strikes a pose in a daring two-piece, French-style top with sky-high shorts that kept the navel safely hidden for the Hays Code. Publicity shots like this packed GI magazines and theater lobbies, offering just enough sizzle without crossing the censorship line. This quirky rig is a German World War I cable-laying bicycle. Two signalers sit back-to-back, pedaling, while the reel behind them feeds telephone wire across the battlefield. It looks like a carnival ride, yet it could lay nearly 2 miles of line per hour, keeping artillery and headquarters talking even under fire. Santa Monica, mid-1940s. A blonde strong woman tears a phone book on Muscle Beach, drawing a crowd. Stunts like this prove muscle wasn't just for men. Soon Strength and Health magazine launched a women's column, and by 1947, the first women's weightlifting contest was held. London, early 1950s. A young polio patient rests inside a chest-type iron lung, a vacuum shell that helps her breathe while her muscles are paralyzed. Nurses bring ducklings to the bedside, animal therapy before the term existed, to lift her spirits. Just 5 years later, the Salk vaccine would make moments like this a rarity in hospitals.